Well, welcome back to 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse, and I have to comment on the last Darkside of the Ring, Abdullah the Butcher episode. I was wondering how this would go. It was okay up until the point where they got to Devin Nichols. Devin Nichols claims that he got Hep C from Abby blading him, and they do have a picture of Abby indeed blading him. But the question remains, did Devin agree to be bladed by Abby? That's the question that's not answered. And Nichols has this rabid hatred of Abby, fueled in part by superstar Billy Graham's rabid hatred of Abby. And they sued him for a shitload of money, which he doesn't have. Abby's claiming he's illiterate. I'm not so sure if I buy that. Either are some of the people that were interviewed on the documentary, including Mick Foley, Hugo Savinich, and Tony Atlas. They didn't have anything bad to say about Abby. The only one that had something bad to say was Devin Nichols. Now, the whole deal is that Mr. Nichols actually did worse than Abby ever did to a referee, which was also shown a part of this clip, where he basically was spiking this guy in the head like an assault and opened up several gashes that required huge stitches to be put in. Also, from what I understand, Mr. Nicholson was not above going to conventions and picking arguments with other retired wrestlers, including Billy Jack Haynes. That's all documented. Currently, I think he is under house arrest in his parents' basement for domestic violence. This guy's 40 years old. He's a fucking loser, and the only way he can get over right now is making videos about Abby. He claims that Abby was, because he had Hep C and he didn't know it, he was tested by the WWE and was released because he had Hep C. Maybe that was their excuse. Maybe the other excuse is that you don't fit the fucking mold and you're a shitty fucking wrestler, because when you were let go, the WWE had a no bleeding policy, which basically there is no reason to let you go if you were any good, because you couldn't bleed anyway unless it was a hard way thing, which they don't allow. So, every other promoter, every other person from J.J. Dillon to Gary Hart to Hugo to just about anybody who has worked with Abby has nothing but good things to say about him. Yeah, Abby was kind of a rebel, but in the twilight of his years, at the end of his life, where he's 82 years old and hard to get around and looks like he's broke and has a caregiver and shit, it's pretty shitty for a fucking idiot like Devin Nichols to keep this bullshit up. No one else has accused Abby of giving them Hep C. A buddy of mine, Mr. Insanity, Toby Klein, wrestled him around the same time that this incident happened, and they both bled. They didn't cut each other. They cut themselves. It was agreed to before the match, and the only thing Abby asked of Toby was not to potato him. So as soon as Toby had heard this thing, he got tested, and he was negative. So again, it makes me wonder what the real story was, whether Mr. Nicholson decided to have Abby blade him and then lie about it. I just think it's a shitty thing, and personally, Devin Nicholson, you're a shitty wrestler. I've seen some of the stuff you did. You're trying to emulate the crazy guys in wrestling to the point where it's grotesque what you do to others and yourself. And I really think that you were completely out of line being on this thing, but, it's exploitation at its finest. Talk about the worst of a fucking person. My own encounters with Abby have been positive. I mean, I worked an angle with him at Chiller Theater where I got thrown across the room. A few years after that, I ran into him at a convention, and he remembered me and laughed about it, how awkward I was and how I shouldn't have even done this shit. So I think he's okay. And, I've seen interviews and stuff like that. He protected the business. He protected kayfabe. He didn't let anything out until recently. He's been saying some stuff, but then again, he's supposedly broke and destitute and needs to do whatever he needs to do. So it was eye-opening, because you found out how he cared that much about his family that he went and just jumped into this business without even thinking and created a character that enabled him to take his mother from washing floors in a funeral parlor to basically living a decent life. And he took care of his family, and that's what really fucking counts in this world, taking care of your family. So in closing, Devin Nichols, fuck you. Nicholson, whatever the fuck your name is, fuck you. Why don't you shut your mouth? You're not a good wrestler. You're a shitty human being, and you have no business in the business. And it's like Tony Atlas and others said on this interview, you know, you get into this business, you have to expect the worst sometimes. You have to expect that the guy that's supposed to protect you won't. You have to expect that accidents will happen, and shit did happen. You know, I would feel bad about him, but he's got such a fucking bad mouth on that I could give a shit. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. And if Abby's got a GoFundMe, I would contribute to it myself. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look that up because the guy doesn't deserve to go out the way it's going. He was an icon for over 60 years rather, and never gave a bad fucking show, never gave a bad performance, and seen him multiple times. And to me, he's an icon, one of the originators of the hardcore violence stuff, and should be treated as an icon. So that's all I got. Stay safe. We'll catch you on the flip side.